Your allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start with any correspondence. Amber?
Yes, we received a letter from Bonstrom and Murphy, Connie Fisher, and 2 letters from Pam Demarest regarding the Ram's Head dock.
All of them. Okay, we're gonna set some waterways hearings, but we're gonna set them, well, a couple of them we're gonna set for the next town board meeting, but some of them we're gonna set for 2 town board meetings down the road because we have no clerks for a number of our committees and we've canceled some meetings. So, want to start us off, man?
Whereas Shorewood Farms, Inc., Siegel Road, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island to maintenance dredge approximately 11,000 yards from the basin entrance to a depth of 6 feet below mean water. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 53-9 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, the town board hereby calls for a public hearing to be held at 6:10 PM prevailing time on the 31st day of January 2023 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed construction. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas Peter Levinson of 23 Winthrop Road has petitioned the town of Shelter Island to replace existing dock boards on section of dock. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 53-9 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, town board hereby calls for a public hearing to be held at 6:10 PM prevailing time, 28th day of February 2023, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed construction. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas William Cummings and Bernd Hybergs, Svenby, 10 Thompson Road, have petitioned the town of Shelter Island to construct a new set of lower stairs with 3 platforms, construct a 4-foot by 30-foot catwalk, supply and install a 3 by 15-foot aluminum ramp leading onto a 6 by 12 floating dock with a 6 by 20 20-foot L secured with 3 anchor piles. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 59-3, 53-9 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, town board hereby calls for a public hearing to be held 6:12 PM prevailing time on the 28th day of February 2023 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or opposition to the proposed construction. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Emmett McCain, 12 Westmoreland Drive, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a mooring in West Neck Bay at a location designated as latitude 41.061525 degrees north and longitude 72.358370 degrees west. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 90-5 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, the town board hereby calls for a public hearing to be held at 6:14 PM prevailing time on the 28th day of February 2023. For all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed installation. So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
whereas Alphiness LLC, 44 Gardeners Bay Drive, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for a special permit for the redevelopment of residential properties to result in a single-family dwelling, accessory pool house with sleeping and conditioned storage now. Therefore be it resolved that pursuant to the zoning code of the town of Shelter Island, a public hearing will be held at 6:18 PM prevailing time on February 28, 2023, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed application. So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Christian Johnson, 14 Man Waring Road, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for a special permit to construct a 60 by 40 barn with open porch and carport on developed property, new building to have no potable water or sanitary service. Now, therefore, no potable water. Therefore, be it resolved that pursuant to the zoning code of the town of Shelter Island, a public hearing will be held at 6:18 PM prevailing time on the 28th day of February 2023 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or opposition to the proposed application. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas North Ferry, 12 Summerfield Place, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for a special permit to replace and elevate the east shore side ramp support structure and repave approaching area. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to the zoning code of the town of Shelter Island, a public hearing will be held at 6:22 PM prevailing time on the 31st day of January 2023, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed application. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the Association of Towns meetings are to be held in New York City on February 19th through 22nd, 2023, and whereas it is required by the Association of Towns to register persons who anticipate attending the Association of Towns meeting in New York City, whereas certain town officials have expressed their desire to attend said meeting, and be it further resolved that the supervisor, Gerard F. Siller, is hereby authorized to represent the town of Shelter Island in voting in the association meeting, and be it further resolved that the daily food allowance is hereby set at $80 per day per official. Be it further resolved that transportation allowance for town officials is hereby set at $38 for each way per official for bus fare and $4 additional per official for ferry fare. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the following 2023 budget modifications, budget modification, singular, is hereby approved. A $200 increase to the A2705SR Senior Center Donations Revenue Account, and $200 increase to the A6777.497 Senior Citizen Program Providers Account. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Be it resolved that the following budget transfers are hereby approved. $2,677.63 from A 1990.400 contingency to A 3510.100 animal control officer. $1,963.60 from A 1990.400 contingency to A 3120.100 PS police personnel services. $355 from A 1990.400 contingency to A 9030.800 Social Security. $26,900 from A 1990.400 contingency to A 6777.140 Senior Center Program Supervisor. $2,058 from A 1990.400 contingency to A 9030.800 Social Security. $11,900 from A 6772.144 Nutrition part-time clerk to A 6772.140 Nutrition Supervisor. $8,100 from A 6772.144 Nutrition part-time clerk to A 6777.140 Senior Center Program Supervisor. $632.48 from B 1990.400 part-town contingency to B 3620.103 McGahee. $94.87 from B 1990.400 part-town contingency to B 3620.105 McGahee longevity. $632.48 from B 1990.400 part-town contingency to B 8010.103 McGahee, and $94.87 from B 1990.400 part-town contingency to B 8010.105 McGahee longevity. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $7,371 from the 2023 A1910.400 unallocated insurance to Edgewood Partners Insurance Center, PO Box 2445, Indianapolis, Indiana 46206-2445 for policy number B5JH03611CL general liability renewal, policy period for 01-01-2023 to 01-01-2024. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Be resolved, the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $24,013 from the 2023 A1910.400 unallocated insurance to Edgewood Partners Insurance Center, PO Box 2445, Indianapolis, Indiana 42206-2445 for the policy number of MPOTSH 1001 CL Directors and Officers Renewal, policy period from January 1st, 2023 to January 1st, 2024. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to read the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Policy.
and just change they're all to the same person, they're just the policy numbers. Be it resolved that the supervisor hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $60,495.44 from the unallocated insurance to Edgewood Partners for policy number MPLTSHI-001CL, package renewal period 101/2023 through 101/2024. Second one is policy MCAT, the amount is $53,373.20. Policy is MCATSHI-001CL. It's automotive renewal for the year 2023 through 2024. Next one is sum of $25,260.40 for policy number MECTSHI-001CL, the same period. Next one is for $20,467.70. Policy MIMTSI-SHI-001CL, Inland Marine Renewal for the same time period. $1,868 for policy SRG 0009131-484B. Amount, did I say the amount? Yeah. Okay, for the same, that's accidental health renewal, same period of time. $26,020.50 for policy number MLETSHI-001CL, general liability renewal for the same time period. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $3,600 from the A7020.484 Recreation Office and Miscellaneous account for the Rec Desk annual subscription to Rec Desk LLC, 300 Plaza, Middlesex, Middletown, Connecticut, 06457. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolved, the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $32,442 from EMS Capital Reserve Account for the 2018 Dodge Ambulance Stryker Power Load and Supply Kit to Hendrickson Fire Rescue Equipment, Islandia, New York, 11749. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved, the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $892.50 from the 2023 A1330.476 tax receiver computer software account for the iTax web portal maintenance to the Edmunds Gov Tech, 301 Tilton Road, Northfield, New Jersey, 08225. So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Be it resolved, the supervisor here is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $3,760.50 from the 2023 A8160.484 Recreation Office and Miscellaneous account to the annual renewal of the SMS support and maintenance to Creative Information Systems Incorporated, 27 Lowell Street, Manchester, New Hampshire, 03101. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the supervisor hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $1,466.10 from the 2023 A3989.400 and NIMS contractual account for the annual renewal of Code Red. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $7,238.38 from the 2023 A3120.491 Police Department Contracts account for the annual renewal of law enforcement supplemental manuals to Lexipol LLC, 249 Fifth Avenue, Pittsburgh, PA 15222. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that supervisors hereby authorized and directed to sign the agreement between Penflex Service Awards and Town of Shelter Island for preparation of the GASB 73 package for volunteer ambulance awards program fiscal year ending December 31, 2022. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that 2022 general claims number 2077 through 2220 in the amount of $91,617.10. 2022 highway claims 247 through 270 in the amount of $43,616.52 are hereby approved for payment as audited, and the supervisor and/or any town board member is hereby authorized and directed to sign the approval for payment of the same. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And last but not least, be it resolved that the 2023 general claims number 1 through 12, what was that, 121?
1 through 12 in.
Okay, is that in?
That's supposed to be in.
Okay, in the amount of $1,381.83 are hereby approved for payment and as audited. And the supervisor and/or his town board member is hereby authorized and directed to sign the approval for payment of same. So moved.
Second, all those in favor? Okay, at this time, we're going to recess the board meeting and open a public hearing on the various bulkhead application. Amber?
Okay, on the application of Jeffrey and Tara Conyers, 82 Gardner's Bay Drive, to remove approximately 790 square feet and 452 square feet areas of remaining eroded upland soils adjacent to existing retaining wall to be placed landward of retaining wall and/or trucked off-site for purpose of installing approximately 104 linear feet of 0.1-3.175 ton stone armor, max 2.5 tons of linear feet, along seaward toe of existing retaining wall, cover proposed stone armor, renourish approximately 15 feet through 20 feet wide, 1,910 square feet area seaward of retaining wall with approximately 53 cubic yards of clean sand filled trucked in from upland approved source to be planted with Cape American beach grass, 18-inch on center, and stabilized along seaward toe with 12-inch diameter coir log, and remove and replace in kind in place plus 4 feet by 8 feet wood steps to beach as depicted on engineering plans prepared by Race Coastal Engineering.
Okay. Jim, the WMAC?
Nothing.
It was discussed at WMAC, right, Amber?
Fine, I'm pleased.
Yeah, it's kind of in kind in place, so there's not much to report here,
Right.
you know.
Any public comments on this one? Rob?
Yeah.
Yep.
How are you? Yeah, so we got a copy of a WMAC report that it appeared from what Amber had sent me that they had voted to approve the application. It's not an in-place replacement of the existing bulkhead. What it is this really was in its original form a retaining wall that was approved and constructed back in 2012, at which time there was probably about close to 50 feet of dry beach on the bay side of that wall, and several feet. There's a lot of material and vegetation on the seaward side of it. And over time, the beach has narrowed, it's dropped in elevation, and almost all of that vegetation and fill material on the seaward side of the retaining wall has been lost. And what has happened is it has exposed more of the full length of that final sheathing of the retaining wall, putting it at some risk of tipping over if any more erosion were to occur there, and the beach would drop in elevation any further. So really what's been designed here is just armor stone in front of the wall, very similar to what the neighbor to the south has, except that the stone would be buried with sand and replanted in an effort to try to recreate some of that vegetated material on the beach side of the wall. So it's really designed to protect that existing wall from pitching, basically, and protecting it from further erosion. And we did get a permit from the New York State DEC to do that. And they had some comments in terms of the design, and all of those were satisfied. And they issued a permit in October with some corrections to it in November, and the board should have copies of those permits.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, there was no problem with it, right?
Any questions up here?
No,
Any comments or questions from the audience,
it's a no-brainer.
from the Zoom audience? Okay, we're gonna close that hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob, and open the hearing on the Walker mooring application. Amber?
On the application of Donald Walker, 7 Little Ram Island Drive, to install a mooring in Cockles Harbor at a location designated as latitude 41.076, 183 degrees north, and longitude 72.309.000 degrees west.
The WMAC met on December 5th, and written report, the application is a second riparian mooring, therefore both moorings become private and boat specific. This one is a sailboat, 18-foot ideal sailboat is their second boat. Current mooring is right off the dock. The second mooring is for the other boat, about 150 feet away. The latitude and longitude was correct. And John was getting together with the owner, I think, about registering the first boat properly. So it was no problem. It was a 6-0 vote in favor of supporting the Walker application.
Okay, any comments on this one? Anybody in the Zoom audience?
No comment.
Okay, we're gonna close that one and open the hearing on the Winston mooring application.
On the application of Larry and Sally Winston, 3 Little Ram Island Drive, to install a mooring in Cockles Harbor at a location designated as latitude 41.075507 degrees north, and longitude 72.307204 degrees west.
Yeah, we haven't tackled it yet, as far as I know.
No.
You got anything on it?
We have, and we changed it from the application because it was out a little far, so we brought it in a little bit closer to the dock. Christina will have those ordinance for you. Yeah, but it was approved.
Okay, all right.
I need them on.
John is not on it.
Yeah, I don't have it on the
Yeah,
December.
Okay, so you guys approved it
yes,
with the corrected coordinates?
with the corrected coordinate.
Okay, any comments on this one? Okay, we'll close that hearing and open the hearing on the Isar River Trust special permit application. Amber?
On the application of Isar River Trust, 149 North Ram Island Road, to finish an existing basement and convert to habitable space with living room area, bedroom, bathroom, gym, and game room.
Okay, any comments on this? Anybody representing Isar?
Hi, yes. Good evening, Karen O from Timmy Latham on behalf of the applicant. My understanding is that the board is still waiting for comments from CAC as well as from the planning board. So I just wanted to take a brief opportunity to just kind of give an overview. This application for the special permit, there's no changes to anything on the exterior. It's all interior basement work. My understanding is that the building inspectors were both at the property today and met with the contractor and did a walkthrough, and then they were going to review their files as well. The applicants are new owners. They purchased the property in August of 2022. The work was done prior to their ownership, so they are trying to do everything that they can to bring everything into compliance with the building department. So I'm assuming that the board is going to adjourn this for further discussion until they get written reports from CAC and from planning as well. But one comment I just had too was that CAC hasn't met in the last 3 months, I believe it was. Their last meeting was in October. I know their meeting this last night, actually, it was scheduled for, was also postponed. So is there a timeframe that the board is going to be adjourning this until?
We scheduled a bunch of our hearings for the last, for the February meeting. So we're hoping that all our committees can meet before that meeting.
Okay,
This one was due to a clerk issue. The
Right.
last one was due to a quorum.
yes, yes.
This new idea of having to have everybody, physically present in order to vote has created some issues for people that leave the island during the winter, that are active members of committees, but they can't officially vote. They can Zoom in, but that's a problem. So we're actually working on that issue as we speak.
Okay, I
Okay?
appreciate it.
Sorry for that, very sorry for that delay, by the way.
But I think also we're waiting for the applicant to actually apply for a few building permits for what's going on now.
That was done on Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was done on Friday for some, I think it was for the roof and some additional work, so, which would prompted the meeting with the building inspectors today.
Yeah, and I think there's a stop. So I don't think there's a big rush, just to say that, other things have to come into place, not just the town.
Okay.
Right, and my understanding was that the building inspector said that the work and the building permits for any work above the basement level could proceed once they review the permits.
Correct.
So, okay, all right, thank you.
Very much. Thank you, Matt. Okay, we're going to adjourn that hearing.
Okay, then we don't have to renotice it?
Steven,
I'm sorry?
we have to
Did we
be
adjourn it
specific when we
to
adjourn
a
it till?
specific date, then we don't have to renotice it?
No. You should adjourn it. Best practice is to adjourn it to a date, sir. To a date. Yes, that's best practice. There's no formal requirement that you renotice it anyway. We went above and beyond.
Okay, so we're going to adjourn this one till February 28th. Okay, next, then we're going to adjourn that hearing. Next, we'll open the hearing on the Decker special permit. Oh, this was withdrawn?
That's withdrawn.
Okay. And then,
Yeah.
okay, proposed, public hearing on the proposed local law amending chapter 51 entitled Community Housing Board. You want to read this whole?
You just did.
Okay,
That's all that I say.
okay, so that we have discussed this.
I'll just read the
You
summary.
can read the summary.
Read the summary, yeah.
The purpose of this local law is to increase the membership of the Community Housing Board from 5 to 7 so as to increase diversity within same. Further, to cure an error in the code that speaks to a 4-year term when the term is 5 years.
Okay, any comments on this one?
Bob Collin on it.
Community housing. Thank you, sir. Any comments from the audience, Zoom audience? Okay, we're going to close that hearing. And we are going to reconvene the Rams Head Inn dock application. Amber will take over.
We have Timothy. We will take all comments at the end, Bob. In order. Okay, all right, so Tim Hill is with us, and so we're reopening this hearing. I just want to, for the public to know, we are not going to be voting on this tonight. I know there was commentary out in the community today that we would be voting on this, but there's a lot of public input that came in just today, as well as wanting to hear what anyone has to say today before we close it, and then consider it and go through any conditions and stipulations that we would be making. We'll discuss that by the town board at a work session, probably next week. This plan is to put it on for the 17th.
But as of the end of this, no more commentary.
Yeah, well, depending on how today goes. Didn't want to make that.
Oh,
call
okay.
until we get
Yes,
to the
we
end.
adjourn.
But we're here to listen.
Yeah.
We are here to listen.
Yes. So I do have some people that had pre-signed up that wanted to speak. So Andrea Kachese, you were first on the list. And I've got you on the list, Bob. I recognize your hands up.
Andrea, you're muted. If you're talking, we can't hear you.
Okay.
Okay, and let me do the video.
No, you don't have to do video.
Oh, okay. Hi, good afternoon or good
Where's
evening.
that coming from?
Nice to be here. My question is going back in history, the dock was built in 1965. I've seen it being used all these years, the original dock. And so there were so many permits granted for work on it, repairs and such.
Taxes paid.
And taxes paid initially, permits going back to 86, 88, 89. And all of this was legal under Jim Doherty and Lori Dowd. And now it just seems very strange to me that the town can go back and undo the work that was done in the past and say that the original dock on the causeway was illegal. And now that Ms. Carter has agreed to give that dock up in lieu of you being able to use the Bennett dock, which was originally the Rams Head Inn dock, I feel like the Ram Island Association does not represent the majority of people on Ram Island, how they feel. And I believe that a lot of people feel that the inn and the dock is a benefit to the island. And I think she's running it very responsibly. She's got a Coast Guard regulated driver of the boat to make sure people are okay. She runs safety programs there. I'm very much for this dock, and I feel that it's very sad that people are railroading this new business on the island. And I don't even know who's behind fundraising for this, because the Ram Island Association at the last meeting this summer said they had only $2,000 in the kitty for legal fees, and they weren't going to spend any more on legal. And now all of a sudden we have all this money being spent, and there's no transparency with the Ram Island Association to its members. They were supposed to send out some information as to how many hours they had legal work done, and all other kinds of information that we wanted to do. We haven't even had a real vote. What's going on? It's very closed. It's not transparent. And a lot of people don't even want to go be part of the Ram Island Association anymore because of the way of their attitude towards the Ram's Head Inn and towards its members. They steamroll. There's a very small amount of people that are running that Ram Island Association now. It's very sad. That's all I have to say. I hope you do the right thing and keep the Ram's Head Inn dock. They have a right to run a business like any other business that's run. The Pridwin, they have docks that actually do go up to town property. 2 of them, in fact. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next on my list, I have Linda Eklund, and she's here in person.
Do I check them up? Or?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
please.
Yes, and
State your name.
yes, identify yourself.
Linda Eklund. I wrote something up about the Ram's Head dock. The dock and moorings were part of the Ram's Head Inn operation. I have something, I believe I've sent it to you from the Shelter Reporter, 1960, 1961. I also have a photograph from the Suffolk County GIS that shows the dock as part of the Ram's Head Inn. It was that way until 1972, when the Bennetts subdivided the property into 6 lots, keeping one with the cottages for their personal use. 1979, when the inn was sold, the Bennetts offered the use of the dock to the new owners for another 2 years, which prompted the need for the new owners to secure a new dock. The insurance companies for both the new owners and the Bennetts required the access to be removed from the Ram's Head Inn property above the mean high water line, which was done in a rudimentary, though acceptable fashion. The original Ram's Head Inn dock became for the Bennett's sole use as of 1983. My point, the original dock was built and used by the inn from at least 1960 to 1983. The discontinued use was not voluntary. Now, I don't know if the town code has changed. I know it's changed over the years, but it used to be the town code subsection 133-23D stated that if it wasn't voluntary, that it had to be a voluntary discontinuance. The dock should revert back to commercial use, which is what it enjoyed for no less than 20 years. The precedents, the Shelter Island House, which I don't know if many of you remember, after it was sold in the 1980s, had work begun and then voluntarily discontinued for a number of years. The Fankels later purchased it with the hope to renovate and operate it again as an inn. The zoning board at the time wisely permitted the resumption of the non-conforming use, thus preserving the inn. As with the Shelter Island House, it would be a shame to lose one of the island's historic properties, the Ram's Head Inn, due to the loss of one of its most valuable assets. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next on the list, Bill Kachasey. And I see, Bill Darrow, I've added you to the list. So Bill Kachasey, please. And you're muted.
Yes. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm in agreement here with what's been said so far. I know about the history of the dock that's on the causeway. I know that dock was permitted initially, and taxes have been paid on it. And I have no problem with that dock being maintained. My biggest problem is the way that the dock was taken apart. I understand that the dock that was formerly with the Bennett's was before then, the Rams Head Inn dock. I think that the Rams Head Inn should have one or the other docks. I think Ms. Carter has stated that the Bennett dock, or I'll call that the Bennett dock, might be safer for people when they come in, but I have no problem with either dock. A lot that's been said is in regards to the depth of the water and mega yachts being in that little cove. You know, as a resident of Ram Island for many years and a sailor with a potentially deep draft hull, I can tell you that you cannot get a big yacht in there, and the moorings wouldn't hold. And I know that Andrea Carter has refused people with big yachts and a lot of windage to not pick up her moorings. People have used Shanty Cove and they've dinked in. They need a dock to stay there. It's just beyond me that the town, or not the town so much as several members of the Ram Island Association have just decided that all of this is illegal or immoral or shouldn't be done. It's beyond me. I think the woman has a right to a dock. She would like what I'll call the Bennett dock, and I think that's fine. She's really done very well with the moorings and not allowed oversized yachts to moor there. And I think that a small number of the Ram Island Association has created a big hubbub about something that really should be allowed. So with that, I will sign off and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much.
Next on the list, I have John and Allison Woodward. I do see Allison had on screen here. I presume John is with you. You're muted if you're.
Mute, start video. Okay, yeah, we're both here. Thank you so much. And we just really want to concur with the points that have been made so far. We are very much in support of the Ram Head Inn. It's a very integral part of the island. It's certainly one of the great businesses and employers and a wonderful service to all of us. And reiterate, as members both of the Ram Island Association and the Tuthill Drive Association, we do not concur with what I feel is being represented as the whole. In fact, it's unclear to me as Andrea Kachese mentioned, as to how all of these legal bills are being paid on apparently our behalf. But I would like to say that in the 2 years since Ms. Carter has had ownership and management, we see the traffic going by on Cockles Harbor as we're waterfront, and there's been no issues. It's been well managed, and we are very much in support of whatever dock, be they replace the one that seems to have been very conspicuously torn down, or allow the Bennett dock to resume its original purpose to be the dock for the Ram Head Inn and to be a commercial dock. We're very much in full support. Anything you want to say?
That was well put. I think the old dock that was cut up and the people responsible for that truly was disgusting. It was just totally terrible. Okay. Secondly, I think insofar as the Bennett dock goes, I think the only person with a legitimate gripe would be Pam Demarest. Okay. And I think that gripe should be resolved, maybe about free dinners. Okay. But the service that the Rams Head Inn provides the island, okay, is terrific. And I want Andrea to succeed because she employs people. She runs a good business. She's a nice lady. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Next on the list, Bob Cohn.
myself, and I'm going to try to start the video if I can. Oops. All right, here we go. Thank you very much. The people who have spoken before are really good neighbors of mine, and I'm really happy that they've spoken up as well. I don't want to repeat what they've said because I've agreed to everything about what they said, particularly about how the Ram Island Association does not represent many or the majority, and I believe, of the Ram Island Association, Ram Island residents on this issue. It's interesting to note that one of the letters that you received was only signed by 2 people who live adjacent to the Ram Head Inn and not the Ram Island Association or anyone else. The Ram Island residents are very upset with the association. Many of us have dropped out of the association, have not paid dues this year. I know of one board member who have resigned over this issue. Last year, I mean, we feel a little misled. Last year, Jack Costello, on behalf of the Rams Head Inn, presented a reasonable plan to the Waterway Committee. This was after they decided not to use the Causeway dock, but they were looking to seek approval for the Bennett dock. And they tried to propose that the Ram Head Inn, this is Jack Costello, who does a lot of work on this island and is a trusted friend of this island, to use the Bennett dock as is, but with the 2 larger floats from the Causeway dock, which are needed for greater stability. You're talking about lots of people coming on and off this Bennett dock, to the Rams Head Inn. Now, as you know, that Bennett dock used to be the commercial dock for the Rams Head Inn for many years until the Bennetts separated that out. So several members of the Waterway Committee, and I attended that committee meeting, had no problem with that plan. There was, Mr. Eklund was on the committee at the time. He was later recused, but Mark Ween, who's the head of the Ram Island Association, who's also on the Waterways Committee, strangely enough, was not recused, which I thought was a kind of a problem. At that time, after Costello made his presentation, a representative of the Ram Island Association told us in private that they would have no objection to the Bennett dock being used by the Ram Head Inn for commercial purposes if it only used one of the big floats from the Causeway dock. It seemed to us at that time that with only a 1 float difference separating the 2 positions, there was a clear way to compromise. And many of us thought, okay, this is going to easily be resolved. We don't need to attend any more hearings on this. But the Ram Island Association surprised us with a full 180 in public hearings, objecting to any use of the Bennett dock for commercial purposes. They even objected to the inn's use of the 8 moorings. So residents were understandably livid about how we've been treated by the Ram Island Association, who we believe should not be trusted at all. The Ram Island Association representatives told us that they don't want a fleet of large yachts coming into the harbor. But large yachts can't even get into, like the ones at Sag Harbor, can't even get into the Cockless Harbor. The moorings near the Rams Head Inn is even in shallower water. The Bennett dock is even in shallower water than that. If you're concerned about large yachts coming in, then add a maximum boat size to the use of the dock. We understand the town has spent an enormous amount of taxpayer money on this question, about $250,000 or more. Maybe the town attorney can confirm that for us. We think it's time to settle this. We respectfully request that the town allow the Ram Head Inn to use the Bennett dock as is, as has been used for decades, as a commercial dock in its existing condition with 2 floats from the old dock, the 2 large floats. In addition, you can put reasonable conditions on the dock's use, such as only for launching passengers to and from the 8 moorings, not to the anchorage, and to the docking of 1 or 2 boats under a certain length. There is the shallow water conditions there that are going to limit the amount of size of the boats going into that area. But you can just put that as part of the condition for the permission to use the yacht, to use the dock. The Rams Head Inn is a really valuable place for this community, not just during the summer months. During the winter months, there are people like me and neighbors of mine that use the Rams Head Inn, and they can only stay in business, employ their workers, if they can make some success during the summer months. And without those 8 moorings and without that commercial dock, they may not make it. And that's a big fear of ours as to what's going to happen to this valuable asset to the community if we don't support it with a reasonable compromise that I even think the Ram Island Association, at least in private, were telling us they were willing to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Bill Taro, you're next.
Hold on a second, trying to, wait a minute, I get all these notices here. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Can everyone hear me? Great. Good evening, everybody. Supervisor, members of the council and the public. So I've listened to everyone else's comments. This is not about the Ram Island Association. This is about appropriate use, zoning, and enforcement of existing rules and regulations. Many of us who are concerned about what's happening at the Rams Head Inn do not oppose the Rams Head Inn having a dock. I made this point to Ms. Carter at the Ram Island Association meeting this summer. I said, we would like to see a good neighbor who operates responsibly. I've been on Cockles Harbor for over 20 years. I had never before Ms. Carter's taking over the business seen a launch operated from the Rams Head Inn. It is very clear that the operation there is expansive in use and in operation. And I think most of us do not want to see the operation expanded. If you build it, they will come. We all know that's what's going to happen. To the people who would say that we just set rules and enforce it, we already have rules and we don't enforce them. We all know that. We don't enforce the sound regulations. And those of us who sit opposite the Rams Head Inn have seen issues this past summer. We don't have enough bay constables to sit off the Rams Head Inn all day long, every day, and enforce the existing rules as they are. I think that many of us would be okay with the Rams Head Inn using the Bennett dock, but in size and scale as it is today, it is in a zoned residential area. It should be a residential zone. The argument of safety, they need a bigger facing dock. Again, if you build it, they will come. I have a 45-foot boat. I've docked on 15-foot facing docks before in many other places. And if the goal is to be able to shuttle people from Sag Harbor in East Hampton over for dinner, that's not what the Rams Head Inn was doing before on 40-foot Hinkley. So I think and the other thing I would say, the last point is a number of people who've spoken don't really live right near the Rams Head Inn. I do think the council should consider most greatly the people who are immediately affected by what the Rams Head Inn does. I think some of the people who've spoken are almost a mile away. I don't dislike them. I think they're very fine people. But as I'm not sure, maybe Mr. Cohn mentioned, the letter that was sent were from people who are literally right next door. And frankly, those people's views should count a lot more than people who are almost a mile away as to the concern about it. And the last point on the waterfront side, if you're not really on that kind of side of the bay, the fact that you're a waterfront homeowner, I think is kind of irrelevant. You might as well be on Deering Harbor, because that little inlet right there in front of the Rams Head Inn are the people who are going to get impacted. The people on Little Ram, the people, Pam Demarest, Katie Ford, the Bishops, people like that who are right around there, who are going to be impacted day in and day out. So I don't disagree with Mr. Cohn's point that there should be a resolution here to use the Bennett dock, but the size and scale of what's proposed, I think, is wholly inappropriate for this location and outside of the zoning already set forth under the town code.
Thank you, Bill. I don't have anybody else on the list or with their hand raised. I'll go to the audience, and so Kim Noland, and then I can see who's in the back there. But Kim, I saw your hand first, and then we'll go to the lady whose face I can't see in the dark here.
Hi. So
I'm going to just state your name for the.
It's Kim Noland. I was going to limit my comments tonight to the letter that I submitted with Pam Demarest, which was on the secret issue. But given what's gone on before, I'll just say a couple words about everything else. And that is, we like the inn as it's constituted and the way it was constituted and when it, complied with the town code. And basically, when I say we, I talk about myself, I talk about nearby neighbors, and I talk about the Ram Island Association. And although I agree it's not about the Ram Island Association tonight, which is actually kind of irrelevant in terms of enforcement of the code. And that's what I really think that the town board is here to do. And I think in general, they do a fine job. And I think on this issue, they have been trying hard to be judicious and fair. So really, I'm just here to talk about the code. And I do believe that many people in the Rams do believe in enforcement of the code. So regardless of all the supporters that we've had tonight that haven't mentioned the code, that's why I'm going to. First of all, the dock does violate Code Chapter 53 by locating or wanting to locate a commercial dock in an AA residential zone. Secondly, it violates Town Code Chapter 133 zoning by expanding a non-conforming use without a permit. Thirdly, what I was here to talk about, in which I submitted my long letter today, is on the state environmental law called SECRA. And, you know, I wish my friend Bob DeLuca were here with me because he could state it so much better than I, but he will, and he has stated it, that this project is more than it seems. The consequences of approval are likely very significant over time. And there's a specific law that the town has as a tool that provides a mechanism to answer these questions and improve the understanding of all the parties in the community and get everybody on board and in the same place. And honestly, I do appreciate all the comments about the Country Inn and its resource to the neighborhood and many, many of those things. All I'm talking about is an expansion that will degrade the environment in that tiny little cove in which they want to bring in boat shares, big boats, Sag Harbor, a lot of activity, and that it will really affect the environment. Now, I know some of you haven't been over there very much to see it. So we're going to have, in 1 minute, after I finish, a little slideshow to give you some pictures what it looks like in case you haven't been over there in this time. But basically the bottom line is that this does have a potential to degrade the environment over there. And we all really, I think the town has shown a lot of interest in water quality and in the bays and harbors. And I think, like I said, a lot of town board members have spent a lot of time. They're working on a comprehensive plan. And, you know, I think that this is part of sort of the new environment and climate change that we're dealing with. And we all have to be a little more careful. And I know, as Councilman Colligan has said, that, you know, nobody pretends to have a crystal ball. And I agree with that. And I understand why you say, well, how can we possibly predict the future here? But I do believe that when you change a private dock to a commercial dock, there is kind of a crystal ball that comes into the view. It is going to affect that environment. And it may not do it tomorrow, but as it grows over time, because this is a growth-inducing characteristic under the relevant law, and that must be considered under SECRA. And when you do consider it, you realize that over time, this could have a major impact. Now, I just want to spend a couple minutes on Mr. Hajek's review. You're like worried about the time, right?
Yes, yeah, because we've been trying to keep people, most people have been, like I'm hearing the dinging going in the background, but it's been a little bit, so if you could.
You could come back after we give everyone a.
Oh, sure. Okay, so maybe what I should do is give over, instead of going through, I just want to say one quick thing about your environmental consultant. I really appreciate that you hired one. I mean, I think it's really nice that, not nice, it's appropriate that the town is doing this, and I want to commend that. But I'm going to give over the rest of my time to a different speaker if I could, because our submission had all these exhibits and photos.
I'm going to go in order of like people who have raised their hands and things like that. So,
Okay.
And we're not going to allow any screen sharing. If someone wanted to have the, share the screen, that would have had to have been requested ahead of time so that we could review it. We've had a couple of Zoom bombs that have actually happened, and we've had a couple of instances where we've been under attack during a meetings where we could see people typing in. So we're being really careful about screen sharing as a result of this.
So how can we help you?
Your letter,
Oh, okay.
yeah, your letter
Okay.
today had the YouTube click, and it also had the pictures I requested because they weren't attached. So we do have them. So thank you. All right, so next I've got Sonia Neese in the back. I'll just tell you who I'm, the order. I've got Sonia Neese, then Pam Demarest, then Peter Camford.
Hi, I'm going to make this very short.
Just need to state your name. Oh, I just
Sonia
did, but.
Neese. That's okay. Sonia Neese, 76 Rhode Island Drive. Basically, all the points that I was going to bring up have been discussed. But what I do want to say is I have been on the Rams now since 2004. And I feel that the Rams Head Inn is a very, very beneficial and well-received commercial establishment on this island. And it's been here and it's been running for years, much longer than most individuals who have complaints about the dock issue have been on island. I knew Judy Bennett and Jim Bennett very, very well. The dock was in use for a period of time, before my time, we'll say. But one thing I want to say when I listen to the environmental effects, the one thing that isn't being brought up is that car emissions create more environmental disturbances than a boat or a sailboat coming into a small area. If you look at the number of boats that are in the yacht club area, to that per capita, per square foot of waterway, and you compare it to the Rams Head Inn, we're talking a much smaller scale. They don't have the space. And that's been existing and that's been working fine. That hasn't been a problem for any of the individuals who live in Deering Harbor next to the yacht club, who live across the street. I personally live right across the street from Cockles Harbor Marina. I love the fact that every year I see more and more boats. It means more summer activity. It means more businesses thrive on the island off season. This will decrease traffic because we have an island that you are required to drive onto if you want to get around. We now have some inside island transportation available. People can come by boat, 4 or 5. And they're not driving all over the island and parking, and it's not a congestion. What we're doing is we're diversifying how individuals can come onto this island, support our island, and then on the off season, hopefully these establishments will be able to stay open, which right now I'm seeing is not the case because they can't meet their expenses. So I just wanted to say that. I also just want to bring up the fact that the reason we have meetings like this and we bring up laws and what's on the books is that's what variances are for. And that's why we request them. And there has been a lot of construction with the Cheatwit and with the Pridwin and with the pharmacy, well, the pharmacy being taken over and everything else that's going on within the town. I don't think it's unreasonable to let the Rams Head Inn have use of a dock so that they can expand their business and they can keep it running. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sonia.
I have, I've got Pam Demarest, Peter Camford, and Tom Bishop on deck. And then Bill Darrow and Bill Kachese, I saw that both of you had raised your hands for a second time. So I'll note it, but we'll give everyone a first chance before going back to the second chance people. Yeah?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hey, Pam.
It's been a
Oh, where'd you go?
neighbors about their concern for my I have sent some submissions. I'd really like to share my screen to.
No,
No,
she's breaking up.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, but also I don't know if you were able to hear, we don't allow screen sharing unless it's pre-submitted so that we can
I know,
review these.
so I would really hope anyway that this public hearing is going to be adjourned since we don't have all the permits submitted. The application is still not quite complete. There are some permits missing. I've mentioned them in my letters. And one in particular is the wetlands permit. I'm still wondering, and I've been asking about this, why has that not been applied for? Obviously, the staircases are right on the shoreline for the pedestrian causeway to get over this structure that apparently is going to be 8 feet high and going up the embankment. That is unclear. The actual structure has not been staked out as required by the application, so no one really knows where the platform ends and where the ramp ends and where the staircases are. I think that's a large concern. The fact is that I am not against the business of the Ram's Head Inn. I never have been. I have spoken to Ms. Carter about that. I really have wished her the best of luck with the business, but that's not what this has to do with. This has to do with protecting the shoreline and the cumulative effects that will occur once there are more boats present in this area. And I have seen it, and I have submitted pictures of this devastation of the eelgrass beds already by what's happened. So this all needs to be considered. The town also needs to make their determination of significance on this. I'm not understanding that Mr. Hayek made his opinion, but he's not here tonight. And has the town board made an opinion based on his opinion? Or are we still working on that? Are we saying that this isn't an operation that may degrade or despoil the wetlands? Because I have certainly sent you proof of that happening already. I don't know when I'm going to get answers to my questions from the board. This dock is 158% larger than what's existing right now on site. 158% larger than what's on site. So I think there's a lot more discussion to be happening. The WMAC never voted on this. The zoning issues need to be addressed. The ownership issue needs to be addressed. That was the #1 concern going back to the last meeting on this, the last town board meeting on this. So you cannot make these decisions in a capricious way. This really has to be well thought out about what is going to be the use of this dock going forward. And I hope that you continue this so that the next meeting I can share my screen and show the public what's been going on right next door to me. I beg of you to take your time and listen to others in the neighborhood who are as concerned about the environment as I am. That's my concern. I have no concern about Ms. Carter's ability to run a good business, but there are safety issues. There have been paddle boarders who have had near misses with boats. There have been all kinds of things happening, and this needs to be addressed. There will be no way to enforce use of this dock once it's built. There will be no way to enforce that. I will be making a phone call every day if I had to, and I don't want to be that kind of neighbor, and I'm not that kind of neighbor. It's just not my style. I've seen people come and drop an anchor right in front of my property and have asked them to move their boat without even calling the harbor master, because it's a dangerous place to drop an anchor. The bottom of the harbor there is soft sand. You cannot do that. And when the winds blow and the anchors let go, we're going to have a real mess on our hands. So I really hope that this public hearing continues and we have a longer conversation and really further vet all concerns from all parties and neighbors and the community as a whole, because this is just unheard of to change the use from a private to a commercial dock in a AA residential zone. I don't know what that could be looking into a crystal ball in the future. Who else might want to try to do that? So I'd like to get answers from you about the secret review and your determination and where you are with that. Do we have anything? Do you have a response to me for that tonight?
We will consider the comments that you've made tonight, as well as in your letter, as well as we will consider Mr. Hajak's report as well. So it's all on the table. And it will all be discussed in work session.
But I've asked you this many times.
Pam, let me finish. This is our opportunity to hear from the public, and then when we get to the work session next week, then we will have the discussion amongst the town board members and hit upon the various points that we all think are important, what conditions and stipulations we think are important.
Okay, but this determination was supposed to be made within about 45 days of receiving the complete application. So this is way beyond that. This should have been done first step and alerted to all the other involved agencies. There should have been a coordinated review.
Yeah, we
there's
received
a lot of steps that you all missed on the state law. So,
I'm gonna stop you there just because you've run over time. If you want to add something new, we'll give you a second chance to come back, but it will all be considered when we go back to the work session. Peter Camford, you were next.
Okay,
thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll be fairly brief. My wife and I, we live on Big Ram Island. We are in favor of the Ram's Head Inn functioning, including a dock the way it always had, for all the reasons that those that are in favor of it have mentioned before. I think there has been some very, very selective arguing here as to safety. For crying out loud, we have somebody who has a seaplane flown into the area, that waterway on a regular basis. Makes a lot of noise. There are people swimming, there are people paddleboarding, as Pam mentioned. And by the way, a seaplane, when it takes off, emits an awful lot of exhaust. I've smelled it many times. So when someone worries about a boat coming in and picking up a mooring the Ram's Head Inn, I have to laugh because it's been done for years and years. The other thing I'd like to say, I don't think anybody has mentioned, Andrea has been very responsible in hiring a launch driver, Graham, who has at times repelled away boats that he viewed that in his judgment were going to be trouble because they were playing loud music. They had lots of partiers on the boat, and he has turned them away, even when there was space that they could have picked up a mooring. I think the argument that the launch will be picking up people from Sag Harbor is actually quite laughable. The launch that he has been using, I think, tops out at about 4 or 5 knots. No one is going to be riding in a launch for almost close to 2 hours to go to the Ram's Head Inn. So I think that's something that should just be dismissed right off the bat. Finally, I would just add, I found the way that her existing dock was demolished. I was astonished at the poor judgment when that was done, particularly when one considers that the existing town council has personally represented a direct competitor of the Ram's Head Inn in the past. And to do this at the start of the high season, I was just amazed that nobody ever raised their hand like possible conflict of interest. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Tom Bishop, you're next.
I wasn't nervous.
No.
No one mentioned the fucking seaplane. What's Phil Darrow?
It's Katie Ford. I'm married to Tom Bishop and we're watching together. I've lived on Shelter Island for over 30 years. My former husband, Andre Balaj, and I looked at the hotel and thought of buying it years ago, but because of its zoning, we could not figure out a way to make it profitable. The Eklunds were incredibly wonderful to us, and my mother-in-law, played piano there. It was lovely, and it is lovely. It does not mean it should have a huge amount of boat traffic, and it is not commercially zoned as has been stated. So I think there are a lot of problems with what people have been saying that's like other properties. It isn't. It isn't, and its zoning is different. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. If there's no one else who wants to speak for a first time, James Eklund, come on up. Brett Copens, you'll be next.
Well, obviously the inn has been there for, coming up on 100 years now. It, like all the other hospitality venues on Shelter Island, was not zoned commercial. In the infinite wisdom of the people who were zoning in 1959, they decided that they would make all of them residential, or they probably didn't even think about it. And so, that the zoning, the B zoning stops at the alleyway where the Cheekwood is. The Cheekwood being probably next to the ferry, probably one of the oldest businesses on Shelter Island. It was continuous operation. The inn and its dock, the inn is what we call the Bennett Dock now, which was the Ram's Head Dock in the beginning when we bought the property, probably existed since the middle 50s, that particular dock, used by the inn through, and advertised as being available for guests and boaters and whatnot for years and years and years. When we purchased the property through quirks of legal maneuvering, we did not end up with a dock. We actually, I believe, used it till 1985, but that's a point that's not really important. The fact of the matter is that given the way things are today, you could never decide that you're going to keep a dock that's in front of somebody else's property. That was a mistake. Just like zoning, the way they forgot to zone the hospitality venues, that's a mistake. So these are mistakes that happen. The Causeway dock possibly was a mistake, but it was a joint mistake made by the person who applied for the dock, the town that granted the permit for the dock. The gentleman believed that he owned the property. The town believed he owned the property. And subsequently, it's up in the air, though no survey finally, has ever been actually done to ascertain where the exact location of that dock is. Lori Dowd sent communications to the Ram Island attorney, Mr. Eisler, talking about how the dock doesn't seem to be on this town landing and, giving suggestions for how the whole thing can be remedied, not dissimilar from how the town treats Camp Quinnipiac, a commercial operation which has its dock located right in the middle of a prominent town landing. For whatever. Pardon me?
That's a town dock.
Whichever.
One at a time.
In any case, somebody's renting something from somebody in that case. To echo, Pam, like I'll say about Pam, I like Pam, like she likes the Ram's Head, but Pam is not, with friends like Pam helping the Ram's Head, you probably don't need anybody to be in opposition. But she made the point that this should be extended longer. I think this has gone on way too long. This woman has, in good faith, submitted applications, drawings, different plans, not contested hotly the Causeway dock, which she really could have. The floats that are on the Causeway dock were approved by the town and used by the Ram's Head for, since 1985. So all these years, these boats did not come. That configuration of dock that you would like to just move from one spot to another is not going to attract huge amounts of boats in the harbor. The people who seem to, complain the loudest are those who seem to have taken the character of, quaint Cockles Harbor and, reshaped it in their desires. And I'm not taking anything away from people having, their own desire to build what they want and whatever, but some of those gigantic houses are not so concerned about the aquifer and such. And let's not be hypocritical when we're talking about the fact of approving a dock, which is proper and customary for a hospitality property on the water. Property is 800 feet long. That's a lot of beachfront. It deserves to have a dock in anybody's estimation. So that's what I have to say about that.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.
Brett Copens, you have not spoken yet.
Sorry.
Oh.
Hi, can you all hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you for giving me a moment. I actually don't have very much to say. I just wanted to share.
Can you tell us your name since you appear not to be Brett Copens?
I am Brett Coppins.
You are Brett. I'm so sorry. I thought you were. I thought Brett was a male name. Sorry.
No worries. If I had a nickel.
Good line, though.
So I live at 32 Little Ram at Judy Sutton's old property. And we enjoy living on Cockles Harbor very much. I just wanted to share that I do ask the town to enforce the existing code, and that we're opposed to a commercial dock with a large floater. I too appreciate the Ram's Head. I've been coming to Shelter Island since I was a kid. I appreciate that they've been very responsible, and that's wonderful, but the code exists for a reason, and it would set a precedent to change it. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time and hosting this hearing this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else speaking for the first time? State your name when you get up there.
Chip Edwards. I would like one question answered first. Somebody asked how much legal fees have been on you people fighting this. Do you have an answer?
I have to research that. I don't.
Nobody?
It's accounted for. We have the accounting somewhere. but
Yes, yeah, we'd have to check with the accounting.
100,000, 200,000?
I don't think that.
Nobody can answer that. You're our elected officials.
It's definitely not that much.
Okay, the other question is, just like a few other people said, you have non-conforming businesses. The Methodist camp, they're at a town dock with a launch service with moorings, non-conforming. The Pridwin is non-conforming with the 2 docks. Perlman's is non-conforming with a dock, and the yacht club is non-conforming in Deering Harbor. Nothing said about them, but you're going after this one. I mean, she's been there a long time, you know, more than most of us even. I mean, not her so much, but the building. And I just think leaving yourselves wide open for a selective enforcement suit that we, the taxpayers, are going to have to pay for. And I think it's wrong. Seems to me like somebody here is willing to make some concessions. Somebody from this town board should go sit down with somebody over there and get this resolved so it doesn't cost the taxpayers more money. And I guess that's all I got to say.
Thank you very much, Chip.
Okay, anyone else first time speaking? Ron Jernick.
Ron Jernick, one of the town employees who destroyed the Causeway dock, not by choice. We were all forced to. I can speak with the whole highway department that none of us wanted to do it. But our highway superintendent tells us to do a job, we got to do a job. With the town should be pro-business if it's a non-conforming or a conforming business. So to not allow a dock to be used again like it once was for the business is just bad practice, bad business for the town. And you just, we should be promoting the Ram's Head to thrive as you see all these other places closing down for the winter. Why do you think they're closing down? Because they don't have business. The more business you can have in the summer, the longer you can stay open in the winter to maybe just pay your bills, take a little loss to stay open, to support us that's here. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the physical audience, first time speaker? Anyone on Zoom wishes to speak for the first time? I will go back to those requesting a second. Bill Cachese, you had your hand up first.
Yes, I did. Can you hear me?
Yes. And I just would ask that we're going to try and adhere to the 3 minutes and not rehash
Certainly.
anything you said on your first round.
I don't intend to. But
Thank you.
as a former launchman at the Shelter Island Yacht Club and as a Coast Guard licensed merchant marine officer, I think I'm qualified to talk about boats that come into Cockles Harbor. The moorings there will allow, I think, 8 or 9 boats, no more. The launchman who's been hired by the Rams Head Inn does not allow large boats or party boats or boisterous boats to come in there. And the people who are complaining that this is becoming Sunset Beach is certainly incorrect. I would also like to say that I live within walking distance to the Rams Head Inn on Cockles Harbor, and the concerns that have been raised by people objecting to the Rams Head Inn and their dock are unfounded. This is crazy. The boats that are there are the boats that are there. You cannot anchor. If people break the law and anchor out in a place that's not a designated anchorage, then the Bay Constable comes and takes them away. Or actually, the launchman from the Rams Head Inn, Graham, has chased people away. I think that the launch is an excellent way to send people back and forth. It takes pressure off the dock. They won't need a large, enormous dock like they have at Claudio's. The launch is the way to go. And I think that the people who are complaining about the size of the boats, the number of moorings, the ground tackle that's needed to moor, it's I don't know what they're talking about. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't want to repeat what I said before, but I will say that with a limited number of moorings and a launchman who's concerned about the clientele that comes into the Rams Head Inn, I don't think anybody on Ram Island, and certainly nobody on Cockles Harbor, has anything to worry about. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Next, Bill Darrow.
How was that?
What did he say?
Said, how was that?
Oh.
I'm just trying to get to, so I'm not going to go into my qualifications, having had the helm of a United States Navy destroyer and an LPD in the 80s. I'm sure Mr. Culligan would like to exchange our military experience, but I do have quite a bit of experience with large vessels. I will point out that Hinckley picnic boats, 42 feet long, draw 2 feet 2 inches. They're jet propulsions. They would absolutely be able to be tied up at that 40-foot facing dock. So people who say you can't get boats that size in there, you will be able to get them in that size into there. And we believe that that is what Ms. Carter is planning to do, because she's been advertising it. And you see it happening at the Pitman right now on the big dock there. They're proposing a 40-foot floating dock. So you could get 2 42-foot Hinkleys there end to end, which is much bigger than we've ever seen at the Rams Head Inn. That's what they're asking for. People who have said, let them have what they've had in the past. They did not have a 40-foot floating facing dock. That is way too big. It's not necessary. It is only going to attract bigger boats. We all know that. And I note Mr. Kachese and Mrs. Kachese, I think they're the only ones in the immediate vicinity who are supporting this. The people who are really in the immediate vicinity, the Coppins, the Sudals, Kim Nolan, Kim Bonstrom, Pam Demarest, my family, other people on Little Ram who look right at the Rams Head Inn are not in support of this proposed expansion. The last point that I did not make prior to the point someone made about power boats and sailboats. Everyone knows power boats are far more polluting than cars. No one is taking a power boat to a location and anchoring if they were going to take a car. It's a completely different addressable market. From what I have seen looking across the water at the Rams Head Inn, it's about 85% power boats, not sailboats, coming in over there. And we have seen there are videos of party type boats hanging around in that little cove there during the summertime. that the Bay Constable is not enforcing. We have seen that, we have heard it.
Great, thank you, Bill. Bob Cohn, you're next.
Okay, I'm just trying to start the video. Okay.
And again, I'll remind you again of 3 minutes.
Yes, I'll try to not take much more than that. Well, first of all, Mr. Darrow and and Pam Demarest have been, I think, setting up a straw man. I think the public should sort of think about the difference here. Originally, yes, I think the owner of the Rams Head Inn had filed for a particularly large dock, commercial dock, to be constructed. That's not the Bennett dock. This is before she owned the Bennett house. And that plan is still on the site, the website of the town right now, as the application that she has proposed. Now, my understanding and my recollection is that whatever she may want to do in the future is one thing. But after that proposal didn't go over very well with the community, Frank Costello went to the Waterways Committee and said, look, we're not talking about that big extensive dock anymore. Not the dock that Bill Darrow is talking about tonight, not the dock that Pam Demarest is talking about tonight, but simply the Bennett dock existing as it has existed for the past 30 years, with 2 exceptions. The 2 floats, the 2 large floats. There's 2 small floats there on the Bennett dock now, but she wants the 2 large floats, according to Frank, moved from the so-called Causeway dock over to that, so they provide more stability. That was the latest proposal and compromise that was proposed by the Rams Head Inn owner. Now, what I was talking about earlier was accepting that proposal. All right. And I'm telling you that the Ram Island Association representative told me that they would accept the Bennett dock as is today, plus 1 float rather than 2 floats. So whether it's 1 float or 2 floats has to do with stability and safety and whatever it is, that's a compromise I think that you can reasonably come to. And if the Rams Head Inn wants to expand that dock to make a bigger dock, let them do that in the future and you can deny it, etc. The second point I want to make, so that's a very important point. A straw man has been set up tonight that's been knocked down by Bill Darrow and Pam Demarest that doesn't exist. That's not what we're talking about. Not a huge commercial dock, but the existing tiny residential or formerly commercial dock used by the Rams Head Inn for years. That's called the Bennett dock. The other thing I want to bring up is the total hypocrisy. Bill Darrow had a house on Cockles Harbor, yes, for a couple of decades, but on the other side of Cockles Harbor near the marina. He just built an 8-bedroom plus house facing the Rams Head Inn, knowing that the Rams Head was there. So for him to come in and complain about the Rams Head Inn as if, oh my God, he's been for years and all of a sudden it's going to expand in use, that is absolutely hypocritical. And the people who spoke tonight from the Little Ram Island, those are huge houses. Those are very, very wealthy people. And you compare Bill Darrow and his money versus a guy like Ron Jernick and people who are looking for winter jobs here, maybe, other people who work at the Rams Head Inn, whether they're bartenders or cooks or whatever, to be faced with people with this kind of money who come to Little Ram to tell us that these people shouldn't be working during the winter. I don't care, because they don't want a few more boats coming into the area. You can deal with the boat problem by limiting the boat size that uses the dock. You can say, if Tom Roush doesn't want to have the launch going from the dock out to the anchorage, then don't allow that. There's a clear compromise to be reached here by allowing the Bennett dock as is today with 1 or 2 floats on it, and let that go, and then see what happens. All right, see what happens. Andrea Carter has been an extremely responsible owner. Everyone's talking about the dock master who's been responsible. Nobody has been able to actually, this parade of horribles that these very wealthy people are coming to the town board and complaining about with money to back attorneys, I think is completely unfair to the local community, and it's just really outrageous. And that gets my ire, and I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, we have 2 people looking for third rounds. I would like to just make one comment.
the version of the application on the website is correct.
Yeah.
I checked it, okay.
Thank you.
I would also like to say that we need not be personal here about using.
Yeah,
names.
that's what I was going to say on
I'm
this
really
third round,
not-
that like direct everything to the town board.
Correct. I don't,
Keep to,
let's not open up a ring here.
all right, so Kim Noland is asking for a second turn, so.
See you.
So do you want me to come?
Yes, yep, you have to come up, state your name again.
You know, I'm back on secret and back on the code enforcement. And, you know, in the last 2 years, we've seen something new, which is an expansion of the inn. And what we've seen is the launch. And while there may have been many comments tonight about the launch is a clear expansion of a non-conforming use. It was never pre-existing with the inn's former use. And despite the comments tonight, the launch operation has great potential for creating.
Kim, can I just ask one question?
Sure.
It's just been, since everyone's talking about the launch, one launch versus 8 dinghies coming in from 8 moorings. I don't see an expansion, so if you could just address that.
Well, I don't think that the launch is necessarily just using the moorings, BJ. I think it's been going all around the harbor. And we had a 9/11 call not long ago where, you know, it was ferrying people over to the Cockles Harbor Marina, and there was a big problem.
So that's your concern about the launch, though, specifically that? It's not just the mooring?
My concern is enforcement of the code. We are looking at an expansion of a non-conforming use here. And there have been a lot of terminology thrown around here tonight by non-lawyers. But I will tell you as a former attorney that if a variance were to be asked for on this, neighbors within 200 feet of the inn would be the ones notified, and they would be the ones listened to, because that's the way it works. And that goes to Bill Darrow's comments, which I don't want to refer to other people, but people around this are the people that I would ask you to listen to. And I'd also ask you to leave the hearing open for submissions that maybe not everybody, for limited time only, that maybe other people would like to make tonight, but because of the timing, whatever, they weren't able to put their opinion in, and the public didn't get to see all of the photographic and other evidence that we filed about the environment over there. So, you know, I just would like to, again, go back to the law and ask that, you know, we take another look. And I don't want to, you know, like, go on and on about the secret thing, except I want to commend the town board once again for really caring about the environment of this island. I know that people working on the comprehensive plan really care, and I think that this particular law, SECRA, is a way for all the parties to get together, have an understanding of what the possible environmental impacts are, and, you know, once again, that's it.
Thank you, Ben. Okay, I am like losing track of who's speaking second time, third time, so I think.
Tom Bishop is.
Yes,
the
I was gonna
second.
say, Tom Bishop, Katie Ford
Hopefully something new.
on the second.
Yeah, not repeating.
Yeah.
Yes, you don't, it's not to be long. I just want to counteract what someone's just said. The dock that is there is a residential dock. Residential. When people say it's something else, it isn't. It's a residential dock, period. And if the hotel has zoning that is a version of residential. And I will end it there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Eklund, second round.
Yes.
To come up.
Oh, what? Yes. Oh, I can come up.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry. I don't have, oh, Linda Eklund again. I don't have any background that's marine, other than I have been on Shelter Island for 68 years. My family has been on the island for longer than that, and we have all been boaters. Nothing in the Marines, though, sorry. The only thing I will say is that when James and I bought the Ram's Head in 1979, there was a dock and there were 12 moorings that we could use. When we decided and we were approved to have those moorings converted to commercial, because that's what the town was doing at the time, we agreed to reduce it to 8 moorings. Many times during our ownership of the Ram's Head, we talked about the idea of having a launch, because a launch is safe. People who come to eat and drink up at the inn, who are then getting back into their dinghies in the dark and trying to maneuver their way out to a boat and then heft themselves back up onto their boat, may not be the safest way. Having someone who does have a Coast Guard license and a boat that is designed to get people back onto their boats is a safe way to move people back and forth. One thing that you may notice, and I've noticed, is that over the course of years, Cockles Harbor has had an increase in the number of moorings. So the Ram's Head had a decrease, but the number of moorings that are approved to be in Cockles Harbor have increased. So if you want to talk about congestion, maybe that's what it is, people coming in and out to get to their moorings. I really don't believe that the amount of boat traffic is going to be increased because you are using the same amount of dock space and the same number of moorings that have been there for, I don't know, 30 years. Again, the dock that's called Bennett's was commercial. I believe it's just being asked to bring it back to what it was prior. That's it. Thank you.
And then just,
Yes, I'm sorry.
question, when you went from 12 moorings to 8 moorings, was that done
Yes.
voluntarily on your part?
Yeah, well, the town requested that if we were going to do 8, that we give up the 4, which we did.
You know what year that was?
Voluntary.
What? Yeah, I mean, it wasn't voluntary,
Okay, I
but
just
we
wanted to know.
agreed to do that.
Okay.
Right, but we agreed to do that.
Yeah.
We didn't come in and offer, hey, we'll
No,
give up more.
no, I just thought that, approximately what year was that?
I'm sorry?
Approximately what year?
1987.
1987, thank you.
Okay. So we have 3 people requesting to speak a third time. Oh, did you, sorry, Peggy. So I want to reiterate something new, very brief, please.
Yes.
So first would be, I saw Bill Daros first.
Third time's a charm, right? I don't think anybody who is opposing the expansion of the dock wants to see the Ram's Head Inn fail. Most of us go there. Most of us go to almost every business on Shelter Island. We want to see working people on Shelter Island be employed. We want to see the economy grow for working people. I've seen little evidence that the Ram's Head Inn employs very many local people. I think Ms. Carter did a TV interview where she crowed about hiring people from out of the country and off island. And we know that most of the seasonal, food and beverage hotel businesses hire a lot of people from off island at the end of the day. And I believe this is the case. I'll look to the town board to confirm this, but I believe that we don't get any incremental sales tax revenue for incremental sales on Shelter Island. I believe we share that pro rata across Suffolk County.
Can we keep it to the dock application?
Well, but this all goes back to that. No one is anti-business, but willy-nilly allowing businesses to expand should be balanced with the actual benefit to Shelter Island. So if we're not really creating jobs for Shelter Islanders, we're not really increasing tax revenues to Shelter Island, then we really have to ask the question, why are we doing this? People I know would support historical use of the dock and the size of that it has before. And I'm a little bit surprised at personal attacks, as if certain people don't get to have an opinion. But as I said, I've been going to the Ram's Head Inn for 20 plus years, and what they're doing right now is an expansion of their use and should not be allowed.
Thank you. Next, Bill Kachasey. And again, only something new, and let's keep it strictly to the dock application.
You're muted.
Muted, Bill.
Okay, can you see and hear me now?
Yes.
Great. I just want to say that, you know, there's been a lot of talk about these big boats that come up to the dock, and a 40-foot boat that draws 2 feet draft is not a problem. I don't see why that is a problem. I too have a 40-foot boat. I have docked it at the Ram's Head dock, the one that's on the causeway. There is no problem. And if a 40-foot boat comes up with 2.5 feet draft, I don't see where the issue is that is a problem with the dock going forward. So I would just say that you should, instead of saying it can't be more than 40 feet, it can't be more than this or that, if the boat fits at the dock, there should be no problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And then Pam Demarest.
Sorry.
You're muted.
Okay, I just want to address the specifications of this dock. We haven't really talked about it, but the truth is that the existing dock that is now being scheduled to be demolished and all pilings removed and a new one put in its place with a dock ramp up, 2 sets of stairs, a platform, and a 70-foot ramp is not what's existing. And non-conforming pre-existing docks can only be repaired in place in kind, according to the town code. The existing dock is 897.5 square feet, give or take. What's on the proposal is a dock structure that's 1,421 square feet in size. Now, so the difference is in the increase from the existing dock to what's proposed is 158%. The town code allows for a 700 square foot total dock. So that means that this proposal is 203% larger than what's allowed by town code. So if we're going to talk about size, that's what we're talking about here. 203% larger. The total percent increase allowed by the town code, the total increase allowed by the town code on non-conforming pre-existing docks is 0%. So again, if you allow someone to take a non-conforming pre-existing dock and make it larger, you're opening up a whole can of worms in the future. And as far as these Hinckleys that, oh, that's fine, and they can come up to the dock and berth there. First of all, this was never used. This was never really done at the Causeway dock. It was very rare that I ever saw any docks berthed at that dock. So berthing at the dock is a whole new situation. And since they have these jet propelled engines, the prop dredging that will occur from the cumulative impact of that on the submerged aquatic vegetation is extreme. Absolutely extreme. Over time, these are in the photographs, that's the cause of the stuff that's floating up onto the shoreline now is from the prop dredging that's going on there. And it will do nothing but damage that marine habitat. This is a habitat for endangered species. The northern long-eared bat has just been named to the endangered species list. This is a critical environmental area that has been designated as the Peconic Estuary Environs. This needs to be recognized. It needs to be paid attention to. And a dock this size is just obscure. I do not have a problem with them doing something in kind in place. It's what I would be allowed to do with my dock and many of the people on Bay Ram. This extension of this ramp up the bluff is just overkill. And that's what I'm going to say about the size of the dock. Thank you.
Thank you. We will review all of that at the work session. Mark Green. You're muted, Mark. You're still muted.
Still muted.
We'll give him a few more seconds while anyone else. Oh, Mark's trying to figure that out. Oh, you're on screen, but you're still muted.
Hello?
Now we can hear you.
Okay, very short. On behalf of the Ram Island Association, I'd like to agree with what Pam said and what Brett Coppin said. We're not asking the town to do anything. We like the Rams Head Inn. We like Andrea Carter. All we're asking is that the town zoning code, water code, county codes, and New York State DEC laws be followed. Many times before, people on the Ram Islands have come to the association and asked that the association help with enforcing the existing codes. And we've come to their help. Some of them even spoke tonight and have asked for the association, and we came to their help. That's all we're asking. We're not asking for any favors. We're not asking to hurt anybody. We're not asking to discontinue anything. We're just asking to follow the town codes, the county codes, and the state environmental codes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Andrea?
Thank you. I'm Andrea Carter. I appreciate you hearing me this evening. There's been quite a bit said. Just to eliminate the confusion, the dock request is to replace the same square footage of dock that currently exists with a new dock as shown in the plan by Costello. The square footages that are extras or exceeding that we've heard about must be a calculation of what happens after you step off the dock and uphill, and that has nothing to do with the dock calculation. I know that there was an email sent right before this evening, and there were some pictures attached from Kim Noland, and I only saw it briefly, but I would like to speak to it. There was a picture of some water erosion, the conversation of erosion on the hillside and the bulkhead. Well, as far as I know, Mr. Bennett nor the Eklunds had a bulkhead ever on those properties, so there isn't damage from a bulkhead that's lost. The erosion is natural erosion. You folks came with me and looked at the water line some time ago. We saw that there were some trees on the Bennett property that had been washed away over a long period of time of wind and water erosion, because it does that side of we take it on the nose in high wind on that side of Cockles Harbor, and obviously over the years that's been an issue, and here we are. There was a boat on an anchor near the beach. So we've talked to the Bay Constable about that, and we were instructed that if it's a Shelter Island resident, they are allowed to drop an anchor. So if we do see that, we ask them kindly to move further away so that they don't disrupt anybody swimming in water. If they're not from Shelter Island, we scoot them away and tell them that they're not allowed to be on the beach. So we do take our waterfront very seriously. I take safety very seriously. I'd like to speak to that 911 call that I'm not going to apologize for. It is our policy at Rams Head that the launch, because it only moves at 7 knots at top speed, and that's in great conditions with no wind. It's our position that it doesn't move past the anchorage because it just doesn't make business sense. It's 7 knots. However, Graham did receive a call on his radio from a man who thought he was having a heart attack. He did go pick the man up off of his boat. It would have been faster for him to take him to the Causeway dock for an ambulance to pick it up, but you folks had destroyed that dock and he wasn't able to do that. So at 7 knots, he drove to the Cockles Harbor Marina And fortunately, the emergency crowd, the folks there were fantastic, and we were able to get the man to Southampton Hospital, where he did survive actually a heart attack. The following day, or maybe the day after, there was pretty rough wind, so I wasn't bringing my own boat over, and the man's sailboat was sitting on an anchor, not on a mooring apparently. So once again, my dock master did not follow the rules and went over and grabbed the man's sailboat, took it to a safe place. And, that's what neighbors are supposed to do, is look out for one another and take care of each other and do what we can to keep people safe. I do want you to know we take water safety very seriously. We have water drills with the Bay Constable, water drills with the Coast Guard. In addition to that, I do have an AED on site. We do drills with that. We do choking drills. So we saw what happened with the football player this last 2 weeks, and he was saved by great medical professionals and an AED. We do have one because we recognize just how far we are from help. So I want you to know that I don't take this request lightly. We understand the seriousness of water safety, and I ask you to approve the dock request exactly as it is. It is for commercial purposes without any restrictions. Mother Nature is restricting boaters from coming who shouldn't be able to come because they can't get there because the water's just not that deep. So I ask you to not impose restrictions on me that would be difficult to police and difficult to enforce, but rather let me behave like a self-respecting business like all the others, and know that my body of work of caring about the environment and caring about people and safety will continue. I appreciate your consideration. Please vote as soon as possible so I have an opportunity to be running this season.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kim Bonstrom?
Fourth?
No, Bonstrom hasn't spoken yet.
All right.
It's first time.
You're muted, Kim, if you're speaking.
Okay. One comment, the 9/11 incident that Ms. Carter was referring to happened long before the town dismantled the Causeway dock. And the shuttle was taking the customers to Cockles Harbor Marina. So I checked with the Bay Constable and I talked with John Needham, and you're getting an inaccurate account of what happened that time. That's it.
Thank you. Kim Nolan?
Can I just ask one more question?
You have to come up.
But I guess I need.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah, come up here. So is it true that there's going to be yet another dock between this dock application and Pam Demarest House, which is going to be a dock that is also going to be right there in the same place? And I just say once again, when you build these things, people come. And that new dock that's already been floated in front of the WMAC by the inn or Ms. Carter or one of her LLCs will be yet another dock in that little area that it will be very difficult to enforce. And while I don't want to argue with anyone about their good business practice, I would just say it's going to be tough to know what dock is being used in what way. Thank you. Thank you.
I think at this point.
Yeah, I say to you.
Pam, I'm not giving fourth chances on speaking today.
Yeah.
We just.
I've been here since.
I'm sorry, I did not speak 4 times, actually. I only spoke 3 times. And I just want to say I do have a photograph.
We're
of
not
that
giving
bulkhead
fourth
that wasn't
time.
placed. No,
No,
I'm
yeah,
sorry, it's not true. And
No, we're not
anyway,
giving you
I
a
just wanna
fourth
say-
shot. No more fourth, no.
We're not giving.
Please, that's.
I've been here since 8 a.m.
For a fourth round speaking, sorry. So I want to poll the board. I feel like we've been hearing this, like, we've gotten I think everything new that we're going to get as of today. So I
Yeah,
was
my
going to
comments
suggest
is,
we close this
yeah,
hearing.
And I just
I
want to
agree.
say two things. Number one, we did hear some new information, maybe that might be important to us. And number two, I applaud everybody in the Zoom and that been here very respectful of one another for the most part. I think it's a nice, refreshing change to be able to come in, listen. I applaud all of you. I think you handled yourself very, very well. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Jim.
So we will close this public hearing. We're not going to hold it open for any further written correspondence. Everything that we'd received up through 6 p.m. today will be considered. If anyone sends anything subsequent to this, since the public hearing is closed, we will not consider it. So it will get returned or deleted, just so everyone knows what the ground rules are. We will take this up in work session on Tuesday, and the board will discuss how we want to move forward on this. So that's it on this public hearing. So those of you who wish to exit, if you could do so quickly, because we need to bring Jerry and Cindy back in so that we can finish up the meeting.
Thank you very much, folks.
Yes, thank you.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Very nice.
appreciate everyone's input.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, just,
Recess.
yeah, from,
Pause for a minute, I guess, not really recess.
good job.
Thanks.
Not easy, but great job.
Amber, I'm sorry.
What, Tim?
I just didn't know, did you have a motion to close or do you?
Okay. Sorry, thank you. Thank you for keeping us.
Thank you, Tim.
So do we have a motion to close this hearing?
I make a motion to close the hearing.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Tim.
Tim, you're the best. Thank you.
Keeping me on track here. Thank you.
All right,
Hey.
take care, thanks.
Amber, it's Julia. Can I ask you a question before Timothy leaves?
Yes.
Um, To what degree does SECRA or municipal law require the board to provide responses to each and every point made by an individual during public hearings? There's a attitude, it seems, among some that I expect answers, and I just wonder if you might comment on whether people are going to get actual full-throated answers to the questions that they've raised. Thanks.
Great question, Julia, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, one of the, points of SECRA is to involve the community in input into the environmental impact. But I don't think that means that every single question requires a response. It requires that that input from the public be considered as part of the hard look that the town takes in considering what type of action it is, and in light of that determination, what further action, if any, needs to be taken.
Thank you.
Julia, anything else?
That's it for now. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Tim, we'll let you go.
All right, thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you. We'll see you on Tuesday. Okay, we get to reconvene the regular meeting. You're back. Sorry.
We're going to reconvene the meeting and act on a few resolutions. Egg act on a local law. Do you have
I
that?
gotta find it. I'm there. Hold on, I'll get there.
I got you. Actually, I think the Walker one is next.
On page 7, that one?
Yeah, the new.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Public.
I turned too far.
Okay. Whereas a public hearing was duly held on the 10th day of January 2023 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to a proposed local law entitled Local Law Amending Chapter 51 entitled Community Housing. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board does hereby adopt local law number 1-2023 entitled Community Housing, to wit, a law to change the housing board from 5 members to 7 members and remove the term inconsistency. So, do I have to read the whole thing?
Oh, just
No.
effective date.
So,
Effective date, summary.
Section 6.
Section 6, okay. So the effective date, this law shall take effect upon filing with the Secretary of State pursuant to municipal home rule law. And like I said, the summary of the law is that it's to increase membership of the Community Housing Board from 5 to 7 members and to correct an error in the code that speaks to a 4-year term when the term should have been 5 years.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Donna Walker of 7 Little Ram Island Drive has petitioned the town permission to install a mooring at Cockles Harbor at a location designated as latitude 41.07, 63.55 degrees north, and longitude 72.30, 85.22 degrees west. And whereas a public hearing was duly held on the 10th day of January 2023, all its persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed transfer. Now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to issue a permit for the affirmation installation. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Jeffrey and Tara Coniaris, 82 Gardner's Bay Drive, have petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to remove approximately 790 square feet, 452 square foot areas of remaining eroded upland soils adjacent to existing retaining wall to be placed landward of retaining wall and/or trucked off-site for the purpose of installing approximately 104
Linear feet.
Is it 104 linear feet
I had to rehearse it.
of 1 to 3.175 tons of stone, long seaward toe of existing retaining wall, cover proposed stone armament, renourishment approximately 15 to 12 feet wide, 1,910 square feet, area seaward of retaining wall with approximately 53 cubic yards of clean sand fill, trucked in from upland source, to be planted with Cape American beach grass at 18 inches on center and stabilized along seaward toe with 12-inch diameter 4 log, and remove and replace in-kind in place a plus 4 foot by 8 foot wood steps, all as depicted on the engineering plans prepared by Ray's Coastal Engineering. Whereas a public hearing was duly held on the 10th day of January 2023 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or opposition. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 617, section 617.10 of the State Environmental Quality Review Act and chapter 60 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, notice is hereby given that the town board as lead agency has determined that the project will not have a significant effect on the environment and the draft environmental impact statement will not be prepared. Environmental review status pursuant to chapter 60 of the Town Code of the Town of Shelter Island, type 2. Reasons supporting this determination. The proposed bulkhead replacement, 1, will not cause an obstruction into navigable channels or an interference with navigation. 2, will not adversely affect the public's right to use town waters or land under town waters. 3, will not adversely affect shellfishing grounds or other aquatic wildlife which may exist in the immediate area. 4, will not adversely affect the quality of the tidal waters, shorelines, or beaches. 5, will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent residents. Be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to issue a permit for the aforementioned construction as per specifications filed after said applicant pursuant to section 53-9 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island has filed with the town clerk a certificate that the owner has at least $300,000 liability insurance on the location and operations covered by said permit, a copy of the contractor's current home improvement contractor's license, and a certificate from the contractor performing the operations covered by said permit that said contractor has an owner's contractor's policy signed in favor of the Town of Shelter Island for the liability limits of at least $500,000 covering operations of the contractor pursuant to said permit. Be it further resolved that said operation shall be completed within 1 year from the date of issuance of this permit. Said permit is subject to the recommended limitations and any requirements that may be necessary under the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the Army Corps of Engineers, and any other agencies having jurisdiction. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, we'll open the meeting to the public. Any questions, comments? Nobody in the room, so anybody on Zoom want to say anything that hasn't been said?
Julie Lane has her hand up. Is that?
No, that's your hand, Jim.
It's
yours, sir.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Sorry, Julie.
Pam Demarest.
Yeah, I really just have a question about the secret
determination of
answer that now.
significance.
We can't address that. The public hearing has been closed.
But I'm wondering when you're going to make that determination. We didn't hear from Mr. Hager today in response to my, Amber, may I just please finish? May I just please finish?
But the
You
public
did
hearing
not-
is closed, so we're not taking any more public comment. on it.
Tuesday, you'll have enough.
No,
I'm not
no,
making
no,
a comment,
no.
I'm asking a
That's not the
question.
comment.
I
Okay.
am asking a question. I am not making a comment. I am asking a question about when you will notify the public about your determination on the
Did you do it
secret
right?
law.
It will be discussed on Tuesday at the work session.
So when you discuss it on Tuesday at the work session, there will be no public interaction in your discussions. So you have not really followed the secret law and public
Public hearing is closed.
participation in the secret determination. That's my point. So do what you will and close the hearing, but the process is flawed.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments, questions? Okay, I'm gonna make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Second?